Vrlo često volimo da mislimo o Izraelu i osjećamo jevrejski narod kao nama vrlo sličan i više nego prijateljski, kao bratski narod. I tu padaju u vodu sve one priče o udaljenosti, o veri, o različitim običajima. Kad se u Srbiji kaže Izrael i kada se kaže jevrejski narod, to ima konotaciju nečeg vrlo pozitivnog. Sad bi trebalo da u stvari vrlo pažljivo slušate razgovor koji sledi, zato što ćete dobiti pokaznu vežbu, lekciju o tome kako se jedan disciplinovan i, mogu da kažem, kolektivno inteligentan narod izbori sa nečim sa čim ceo svet ne može da se izbori. Izrael je zemlja koja juče nije imala ni jednog novozaraženog koronavirusom. Imaju više stanovnika nego mi. Imaju isti broj preminulih od korone otprilike kao mi. Negde oko 6.500. A uspeli su samo sa jednom stvari, a to je uporna, masovna vakcinacija, da prvi na svetu imaju takve podatke. Nema novozaraženih. Kako je Izrael to uspeo? Jutros pričam sa njegovom ekscelencijom, ambasadorom Izraela u Srbiji, gospodinom Jahelom Valinom. Dobar dan.
Dobar dan. Nice to be here.
Kaže da je lepo što je ovdje i deo će razgovor ići na srpskom, a deo na engleskom. Žao mi je što nemate više poverenja u svoj srpski, zato što je dobar, ali da se držimo ovog zvaničnog engleskog. Za početak, evo, pitaćemo ambasadora, šta je glavni faktor u strategiji borbe protiv koronavirusa koji je doveo do toga da nema novozaraženih u Izraelu? What is the main factor in Israeli success against coronavirus so that you have no new patients today?
Well, definitely the vaccination campaign is the most important factor in the situation right now in Israel.
Definitivno vakcinacija je najvažniji faktor u Izraelu.
We launched it back in December under the slogan Back to Life.
Počelo je u decembru sa sloganom povratak u život.
The idea was really to be back to life. By the early April, we had very important holiday for us, the Passover, very family holiday. So the idea was really not to have this like we've done last year, that everyone in his small family, but to allow the people to celebrate in their wider families.
Ideja je bila od decembra do početka aprila, kada je bila Pasha, je li tako, da se Pasha ove godine proslavi u većim grupama, a ne kao što je bio prošle godine slučaj u karantini. So you did it. Uspeli ste.
We definitely did it. I think there are many factors which are very crucial. And first, I think there was the strong commitment and dedication by the Prime Minister and his government to pursue with the vaccines and to do it together with one company, with Pfizer. And there was agreement signed between Israel and Pfizer, and I think it was so successful, and Pfizer practically chose Israel to be their partner as kind of a pilot because of various things that we were having in Israel.
Who other than chosen people?
Not this one.
Izbor je, dakle, ono što je odlučilo jeste kolektivna, ali i velika posvećenost i odlučnost izraelskog premijera da se stane na kraj koroni, kao i specijalan dogovor, odnosno sporazum koji je imao Izrael sa Pfizerom kao svojim glavnim partnerom u ovome, koji je izabrao, ja rekoh izabrani narod, da Izrael, da upravo tu isprobaju ovu strategiju. Ali mi imamo problem sa disciplinom i sa antivakserima ovde. Kako je Izrael to savladao? So in Serbia, we are not so disciplined. We do not understand that this is our national task. We have so many anti-vaxxers. Did you have them, those problems in Israel?
I must say not so much. I mean, again, at the moment, we are reaching, I think, today or tomorrow, 5.4 million people with the first dose and 5.1 with the second dose.
In percents, that is more than half.
From the entire population, it's around 60. But from those who are eligible, because in Israel we are vaccinating over 16. So from the people over 16, it's about 85%.
Dakle, u Izraelu je vakcinisano do ovog trenutka više od 5,5 miliona ljudi, revakcinisano 5,1, to je 60% starijih od 16 godina.
So we still have around 1 million people who are eligible to come and get vaccines.
Ostalo je još oko milion onih koji bi trebalo da prime vakcine.
But I must say, I'm not sure if I should say I was surprised that with the way Israelis reacted and went in huge numbers, because again, as you said, for me it's very rational behavior. When, you know, maybe in the first few weeks it was not obvious whether it's working or not, what are the risks, but now after 3-4 months, when we see the results in Israel, as you mentioned a few days ago, we were the first day without any death cases in Israel since I don't know when. If you see the drop in the numbers back in January, January was the toughest month throughout the pandemic in Israel, with a lot of, you know, a number of dead people every day. I think average was 50, 60. Average of new cases were over 500. Now it's 80. So it's absolutely working. So that's why I cannot understand people in countries like Serbia, for example, that the government did its part and brought the vaccines. The vaccines are available. It's a huge privilege in the world of today. You know, there are so many countries without vaccines,
yes. Dakle, njegova ekscelencija, ambasador Izraela, Yahel Vilan, kaže da ne bi trebalo možda da kaže da je iznenađen, ali da zapravo jeste ovo neka vrsta pobjede racionalnog ponašanja, zbog toga što je januar bio, to je bilo pre samo 2 meseca, najteži mesec u Izraelu sa 60 u proseku smrtnih slučajeva dnevno i stotinama novozaraženih. Danas nema novozaraženih i nema smrtnih ishoda od koronavirusa i da bi trebalo u stvari, da mu nije jasno zašto u Srbiji odbijamo da uradimo ono što je država za nas već završila, dakle nabavila vakcine i mogućnost da dođemo eventualno do ovoga. Dakle, vakcine deluju, kaže ambasador Izraela, očigledno za 2 ili 3 meseca tako velika promena. So, how do you come in and out of Israel now? Are you an open country at the moment or not? Da li se može ući i izaći iz Izraela? Da li je Izrael sada otvorena zemlja?
Well, we are more open than we used to be. The airport was, throughout the pandemic, a big problem. The way we handled that, because, you know, in theory, Israel is kind of an island state. We have, most of the people are coming from the airport. And it was not always as close as needed or whatever. But nowadays, we are still not open for general tourists. I mean, people who want to travel to Israel need to go through some procedures and committee to get some special approval. So it's not open for general public for tourism. We are working on some pilot, hopefully started late May, 23rd May. Again, yesterday I saw in the press that maybe the Ministry of Health would like to postpone it, but probably the idea is really to try to open tourism for the summer, because the tourism industry in Israel is still suffered a lot. I mean, everywhere in the world, tourism business, I think, was the first to be affected and probably will be the last to be reopened. So.
Da, dakle, u ovom trenutku je moguće ući i izaći iz Izraela samo sa specijalnim dozvolama. Moguće je otvaranje krajem maja, ali će Ministarstvo zdravlja možda to još malo odložiti. Ideja je da se u Izrael turistički može ući tokom leta. Inače je Izrael po konceptu ostrva, dakle većina putnika, odnosno skoro svi putnici ulaze i izlaze iz zemlje preko aerodroma. Turizam je jedan od glavnih faktora ekonomije Izraela i bilo bi dobro, kaže ambasador Vilan, da se do leta to reši sa ulaskom i izlaskom turista. To je važno i za nas, jer u ovom bi trenutku, dakle, pred Vaskrs, 1000 naših ljudi bile u hodočašću u svetoj zemlji. Turizam nas dovodi do sljedećeg pitanja, koliko je ekonomija Izraela stradala zbog korone. Tourism brings us to economy in Israel generally. Do you know the numbers of the damage that corona caused?
Well, I didn't see. We have, of course, numbers of unemployed people. Israel entered this crisis with very good numbers, less than 4% of unemployment. We usually had good economic period before, but with the first closure in the country last March and April, the numbers jumped like almost overnight or in a week or two to more than 20%. More than 1 million people lost their jobs, and the government gave people kind of allowances for not working. This is until this coming June. So in the last few months, people can come back to work. Some of them, unfortunately, choosing to stay home because they get this allowance, which is not exactly what they used to get. But by June, people will have to go back to work because all these allowances by the government will be stopped completely. But absolutely, economically, you know, there were people asked about how much this vaccination campaign cost, and I saw the number. Now we're already thinking about the next round of vaccines, but this one, what I saw, a number of less than $1 million.
Less than 1 million.
1 billion, sorry.
Billion, okay.
that Israel paid for the vaccines. $1 billion is equivalent to less than 3 working days of the Israeli market. So, you know, our GDP, if you divide it by days, you know, you cover this cost in 3 working days, full working days of the economy. I believe it's the same for every country in the world. I mean, you know, it can be 3 days, it can be a week, but these are the figures. You know, it's definitely economically, it's absolutely worthwhile to go with the vaccines and to pay almost any price because what it's doing for the economy.
Dakle, Izrael je ušao sa odličnim brojkama u korona krizu. U tom trenutku bilo je manje od 4% nezaposlenih. Preko noći taj broj je otišao na čak 20% nezaposlenih. Oko 1 milion ljudi je izgubilo poslove i država im kontinuirano pomaže, država Izrael, tokom svih ovih meseci, ali će ta pomoć biti obustavljena u junu, kada se očekuje da se svi vrate na poslove. Neki još uvijek biraju da žive od državne pomoći. Inače, vakcinacija u Izraelu do ovog trenutka koštala je nešto manje od $1 milijardu, što je tek 3 dana poslovanja na berzi u Izraelu i kaže ambasador Vilan da se vakcinacija apsolutno isplati za sve zemlje na svetu, jer to može biti 3 ili 7 dana ukupnog poslovanja jedne države, a korist je potpuno jasno, mnogostruko veća. Pitaću ga kako ocenjuje stanje u Srbiji. Ambasador je inače naravno vakcinisan i njegova porodica i osoblje, ali kako vidi ovo što mi imamo na raspolaganju? So how would you, what would you say about the situation in Serbia? Are we generally as a country and our government and our establishment doing good in this crisis?
Well, first of all, I'm here, you know, I came during the pandemic. I just arrived in August, but from what I see, I think the government is doing very well to cope with the pandemic. Again, you know, I think every government in the world made good things, bad things, mistakes. It's all new for everyone. Each government, I think, took this balance between only taking care of health or on the contrary, taking only care about the economy. So in this balance, every government, you know, chosen different paths. I think in Israel, for example, for most of the time, we were concerning mostly about health, less about economy. So I would say that I think our economy was affected much more than the Serbian economy. I think here, again, I wouldn't say which one is the best balance, but definitely I think the balance here was more towards keeping the economy running and open. And I think the numbers show that the Serbian economy is doing quite well comparing to other countries in the world. And again, now with the vaccines, you know, I think people should appreciate it. Again, it's not obvious that this country has so many vaccines. It's you know, it's a competition to get vaccines, and every government who is getting vaccines for its people, I think, deserve all the compliments. And I really hope that people will understand and will go and get the vaccines because, again, from our experience, that's the only way out, or definitely the best way out.
Njegova ekscelencija, ambasador Izraela, Jahel Vilan došao je u Srbiju u sred korona krize u avgustu mesecu i on ocenjuje da je na svakoj zemlji bilo da nađe najbolju ravnotežu između zdravlja i ekonomije, te da je prema njegovim ocenama i podacima srpska ekonomija prilično dobro održana u ovoj krizi, da je ta odluka naše vlade da se čuva i ekonomija podjednako i kao zdravlje za sada za ekonomiju ove zemlje bila dobra, te da bi mi trebalo da budemo zadovoljni izborom izborom i mogućnošću da se vakcinišemo. I had so many more questions, Your Excellency, but we have limited time, you know. So generally, with your experience and knowledge, it will be good to see you sometime soon again.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, and I really hope to see each other after the pandemic, and I really hope we get there very, very quickly. And again, I think in Serbia it's absolutely possible because the means are here. It's just a matter of decision by the people. And again, look at Israel. I hope people looking on the pictures coming from Israel, how life is really back. The streets are full, the restaurants are full. And there is one thing which I think is very much in common between us Serbs and Israelis, and this is we people who like life and like to go out and celebrate. And if people want to do it quickly here, they have to go and get vaccines.
Gledajte, u Izrael te lepe slike povratka života u Izrael se vraćaju i nama bi trebalo da budu dobra lekcija. Kaže ambasador Vilan da su Izraelci i Srbi slični po tome što volimo život i da ako imamo sredstva, a to u ovom trenutku jesu vakcine, možemo i pobediti epidemiju.